Well, we are finally winding down the prosecution's case. Hi, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and it's time for another Daily Diddy, bringing you daily trial updates from the Diddy case until we get a verdict. So today is we're starting to get the sense that we're on cleanup, kind of finishing everything having to do with the prosecution's case. But before I get into that, first off, a juror was dismissed by the judge because he lied about where he lived. We're not clear. There's the whole point. They're not clear exactly on where he lives, whether he lives in New York, which would make him eligible to serve on the jury, or if he lives in New Jersey with his girlfriend, which would make him ineligible. And because of the back and forth and it's not being clear, they decided to dismiss him. Now, the defense didn't want it because he is an African-American man and he seemed very attentive and wanting to take notes and everything else. And he was replaced by a white guy from Westchester. Now, again, what the judge did was completely permissible because what else is he supposed to do? If you don't live in the jurisdiction, you can't be on the jury. So dude needed to be more clear one way or the other. So anyway, after that old brouhaha, we started off with testimony. Now we had two witnesses today. First off was a paralegal from the U.S. Attorney's Office. And these last two witnesses are what's called summary witnesses, basically meaning they cleaning up everything and they're kind of giving you the whole 30,000 foot lay of the land. And so the paralegal was talking about the mounds and mounds of evidence that she went through, including a ton of text messages from who? Christina Coram, chief of staff. So it was very clear from these text messages that she was active in getting flights for the sex workers, that she was active in making sure that Diddy had drugs and all of that. And why is that important? It shows that his staff was involved, which means racketeering. Because remember, for the racketeering charge, you have to show not only the two predicate offenses, which the prosecution proved that in spades, but you also have to show that it's you, the staff, not like Diddy's personal person who's not involved in anything else. No, staff of like Bad Boy Productions, all of that were involved in his criminal activity. So ton of text messages about that showed the concern, and it also revealed that they tried to basically bribe Mia. Now remember, Mia was a former personal assistant who alleged that Diddy sexually assaulted her and of course forced labor and all of that stuff because he made her work without sleeping and all of this. And so when the Cassie suit was brought, all of a sudden Mia's getting phone calls from security talking about here's some money, here's some gifts. And she's like, but I ain't asked for anything. I ain't talked to y'all. So that shows again, back to racketeering. So the last witness for today was a special agent from the U.S. Attorney's Office. And her testimony was critical because it showed the flight patterns. So all the flights that the sex workers took and that were paid for by Bad Boy, by Diddy, by Christina Coram, all of that for purposes of the freak off / hotel nights / king nights, whatever you want to call it at this point. Again, this is all key for transportation for the purposes of prostitution because again, literally, these guys were being flown all around the country for the purposes of engaging in sex work, which again, transportation for purposes of prostitution. So there's that. So those two were it for today. There's also some discussion about another juror getting removed because they may have improperly talked about the case, which you're not supposed to do. When you're on a jury, you can't talk about the case with anyone, not your spouse, not your boo, nobody, right? And it's alleged that this person may have talked out of court, which is a problem. So next up tomorrow, we're going to have some more law enforcement witnesses that are, again, summary witnesses kind of wrapping everything up. And we're also going to probably hear from Brendan Paul, who was a former assistant. And if you remember, he got snatched up in Miami for drug possession for Diddy. So yeah, looking forward to hear what the drug mule has to say, because that's going to be interesting. Anyway, so that's the deal for today. Week 6 is off to a huge start. So see y'all tomorrow. Bye.